Hi, my name is Eric George, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what FERPA is and kind of what it means for us as teachers. So first off, FERPA is a law passed in the 80s that was aimed at protecting students' privacy, as teachers and educators were often interacting with all sorts of personal information for our students, so it was designed to help protect those records. So specifically, it protects personally identifiable information, or PII. That includes student health records, so it could be like allergies, ADHD, seizures, any sort of information like that. It protects students' discipline records, so times they've been suspended, expelled, any consequences, anything relating to discipline. It also protects their grades and academic records, as well as any attendance records. FERPA applies to all educational agencies that receive federal funds. It is a federal law, so in order to be compliant with federal laws and receive that federal funding, any school or district must follow FERPA. And basically, what it does, in addition to protecting student privacy, it gives parents the right to view their children's educational records, or students who have become their own advocates, so students who have turned 18 and had that permission given to them. It also gives parents or eligible students the right to give consent before their records are shared. So if you are going to be sharing that information, um, that needs to be given by parents' permission. In recent years, this has kind of changed a little bit. There are more organizations such as law enforcement entities that information does not need direct parent consent first. So what does it actually mean for teachers? So first, the biggest impact it has on us is we need to be careful with the technology we use. Um, Certain websites require students to enter certain personal information. Um, that those websites need to be approved by supervisor or your technology officer to ensure that they are compliant with FERPA regulations. If not, you could be unknowingly violating FERPA. It's important to find out what companies and vendors your school works with, as they typically have a vetting process before they are approved and able to be used in classrooms. And then also continue to evaluate the technology you and your students utilize. As we shift to a more digital classroom, um, more and more third-party apps and third-party entities are going to be trying to collect more and more of that information. So it's important to be aware of that. When you are using student data, it is important to keep that data secure. It needs to be stored in your school's data management systems. Do not store student information on your personal drives. You have less protection, less encryption, and you have probably not taken the safeguards to ensure that data is protected. Do not email information to unverified parent email addresses. And in addition to email, don't use your personal email when dealing with anything student related. Always use your work email. Keep any physical copies of graded stuff in secure places and safe. That is also liable for FERPA. And don't discuss student information with others unless that person has a legitimate educational goal. When you are requested access for that student information, you need to communicate education record information with the student's parents. You need to know your student's legal guardians. Be sure that that their actual legal guardian. And if you ever receive a request to inspect or review education records you do not have access to, tell your administrator. Okay, communicate with your administrator. They can help you. So it's very important to be FERPA compliant. And some things that we are kind of doing here in the Southeast to try to ensure that we are adhering to the laws is we're trying to raise awareness. So we are ensuring that all teachers, all employees are aware of what FERPA is and what provisions actually affect them. That goes into the second part. Confirm that FERPA applies to you. So it doesn't cover every single person in a school, but if you are dealing with student information, then FERPA relates to you, and it's important that you are aware of what exactly is required of you. Know the rights, protections, and exceptions. Be familiar with the law. It's the job of every school employee to understand what exactly FERPA is and what is required of them and how they can comply. Next, choose compliant vendors. Oftentimes, this is going to be more of the role of an administrator, but if you in your classroom are wanting to use different apps for projects, things like that, make sure that they are compliant and approved for FERPA. Okay, if they are not, then you are opening yourself for liability. 5, train all school employees. That's kind of what we're trying to accomplish here with this. We're working on improving awareness, improving what exactly FERPA is. 6, implement compliant policies and procedures. Having a way to ensure that we are FERPA compliant is crucial. So, for example, in your classroom, shred old papers and grades. If your information does get breached, what are you going to do? Have a plan for that. Um, think through these different ideas because it's happening more and more. 7, encrypt files and emails. Use your school computers, use your school emails. There have been most of these files and data saving cloud storage systems have been encrypted. We've taken that time to protect them. Okay, do not use your personal stuff as you do not have the proper encryption most likely. And lastly, implement other prevention tools. So we are ensuring that there are other sorts of compliance monitoring things. Maybe we'll have periodic tests and check-ins to see if we are following. So there are going to be other prevention tools in place. As we transition to more and more technology use, as we're getting one-to-one technology with our students next year, it's important to be aware of what exactly is happening with FERPA in the digital age. So in recent years, the law has kind of been weakened as more information is being shared with big tech companies like Google, like Microsoft. Um, in order to help bolster FERPA, many states are stepping in with laws of their own to help protect students' privacies. In your classroom, ensure that third-party vendors have appropriate safeguards. So make sure that the apps you are using are actually protecting your students' identity. Ransomware and data hacks are happening more and more frequently. Laws are being updated and changing, so be aware of that. And lastly, a good practice to get into is data destruction. Um, we need to be constantly on top of our data and what files we have saved. So there are 3 ways to kind of make sure the data is destroyed. The first would be to clear it. This is basically just going into your device and deleting old files, deleting old grade books, deleting old student work, things like that. Um, for the most part, that's going to be fine. Um, it's really hard to recover that information, but it still can be recovered through different software. So if your device is stolen, it is not entirely safe. But for most day to day, that's going to do it. Next, we have purging. So this would be a method of sanitizing a physical thing with an outside force. So taking a magnet to wiping it, you are kind of corrupting the data in some way so it's not accessible. And then lastly would be destroying the device itself. Um, by doing that, you're destroying it. There's nothing to access or anything like that. So this is just some information and some things to be aware of with FERPA and kind of what we need to do in order to protect ourselves and protect our students. And if you're looking for more information, you're welcome to check out my references. Thank you.